In the early 1990s, a family in Egypt moved into a beautiful old villa. The house was situated in a quiet village, surrounded by thick trees and located far from the nearest town. It was the perfect place to escape the city's chaos, or so they thought. The family was excited. The father, Ahmed, had inherited the house from his late uncle, who had passed away under mysterious circumstances. It had been abandoned for years, but it had always seemed well maintained. The family was eager to start fresh in their new home. However, strange things began happening only days after they moved in. It started with small, unexplainable events. The lights flickered at night for no reason. Doors would creak open when no one was nearby. And sometimes they would hear strange, faint whispers in the house. At first, Ahmed and his wife Layla thought it was just the house settling. But then their young daughter, Fatima, began having terrifying nightmares. She would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming about a woman in a white dress, standing at the foot of her bed. She described the woman as pale, with long, black hair that covered her face. One night, Ahmed stayed up late in the living room, reading some old letters that had been left behind by his uncle. Suddenly, he heard a loud bang coming from upstairs. It sounded like someone had dropped a heavy object, but when he checked the room, everything seemed normal. The air felt cold, and a strange presence filled the house. The next day, Ahmed noticed a shadow moving across the hallway, just out of the corner of his eye. He turned quickly to find nothing there, but the feeling of being watched lingered. As the days went by, the haunting intensified. Objects began moving on their own, books falling from shelves, furniture shifting slightly, and pictures on the walls crooked as if someone had touched them. At night, they could hear heavy footsteps pacing up and down the stairs, but no one was ever there. It wasn't long before Layla began to feel the presence too. One evening, she was preparing dinner in the kitchen when she saw something out of the corner of her eye. A shadow, just like the one Ahmed had seen, darted across the room.
She ran into the living room, her heart racing.
But when she turned back to the kitchen, everything was back to normal. No shadow, no movement. Fatima became even more terrified. She refused to sleep in her room anymore and started to sleep on the floor next to her parents' bed. She claimed that the woman in the white dress was now standing in the hallway, staring at her with empty eyes. Layla would often find her in the middle of the night, sitting up in bed, staring at the door, as though waiting for something. Then one evening, something horrifying happened. Layla was cleaning the upstairs bathroom when she felt a cold breeze sweep across the room. When she turned to look, the door slammed shut behind her. The lights flickered, and the water in the sink turned on by itself. Terrified, she screamed for Ahmed, but when he arrived, the door opened without him even touching it. The bathroom was freezing cold, as if the temperature had dropped dramatically. By this point, Ahmed was convinced that the house was haunted by something more than just a ghost. Determined to find out what was really happening, he contacted a local religious leader. The imam arrived at the house the following evening, bringing with him a few holy items to perform a ritual. The family gathered in the living room as the imam began to recite verses from the Quran. But as soon as he started, the room seemed to grow colder, and the lights began to flicker more violently. The air was heavy, and the whispers that had plagued the family grew louder. Everyone in the room felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The imam suddenly stopped reading and looked at Ahmed. His face was pale, his hands shaking. He told them that the house was not just haunted, it was inhabited by a jinn, a malevolent jinn who had been living there long before the house was built. The Jinn, he explained, was bound to the land and had a dark history. It was said that it had once been a powerful spirit who had taken the form of a woman in a white dress, luring people into the house and driving them to madness. The family couldn't take it anymore. They packed up and left that night, never to return. The house, now abandoned, stood silent once again. Local villagers whispered that the Jinn still roams the halls, waiting for its next victims. No one dares to move into the villa now. The windows remain dark, and the once beautiful house slowly crumbles away, as if time itself has abandoned it. The legend of the haunted villa lives on, and for anyone who dares to enter, it is said the Jinn will come for them next.